It's that time once again. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the F1 25 My Team, the series where we have created our own team from nothing and are trying to be the best in Formula 1. You join us in round 10 for the Canadian Grand Prix, the same racetrack that we saw in real life just a few days ago. We'll try and do our best not to do a Lando Norris on our teammate. We're going to be driving as Franco Colapinto, at least I think, in today's episode. No, maybe it's Brendan Lee. I have no idea. But we'll have to wait and see how we're going at the end of this episode. We're currently tied for both of our drivers, 16 points apiece, 12th and 13th, 6th in the constructors standings. Basically, we want to alternate between our two drivers to keep things somewhat close. It is all about the team in this career mode save. It's not about individual glory. And yeah, we're doing our best as a team to work our way up the order. Now, finally, in something we are not last at, that is the fan rating. We have overtaken Haas for having more fans than those guys. So at least we're doing something right. A quick look at the driver lineup in comparison. We do have to think about this at some point in the future, maybe replacing one of our drivers. We'll have to wait and see. Both of them seem happy, although Franco is amicable towards us, so that's slightly negative, I assume. Don't know why he's unhappy, because he's getting his debut in F1 through us, and it's having some pretty good results so far. So let's see if we can change that in the not too distant future. Anyway, in terms of upgrading the facilities, we have 4.8 mil to spend. We are going to go down research expansion on the powertrain, I believe that was. Yeah, just trying to free up some blockages that prevent us from doing multiple upgrades at the same time. And just unlocking higher tier of upgrades is always going to be the route that we go down. Because at the moment, we're just kind of held back by the amount of things we could spend our resource points on. We've got 6.8k resource points. And over 45 seasons of doing career modes, I've never had this many resource points before. And it's season 1. Granted, we do have the sliding scale modifier, which I now know is given to us because we are last in the standings, or we were when we started the season. That may change in the not too distant future. It's F1 25's way of balancing out the field. The top guys get less than 100% to spend on their development. So we're going to try and spend these points as quickly as we can while we can, because we know that this won't last forever. We are not exactly last in the standings. We've outperformed ourselves at certain points. So just trying to get those on as quickly as we can, really. And, you know, we're doing our best, but we've had many failures.
Unfortunately, looks like we've come off second best against our rivals. We'll get them next time.
Thank you for that, Andrew. I already knew that we failed the rivalry against Williams. I don't need to be reminded of that. I think our new rival is now Alpine, and we are ahead of those guys, so at least we're doing something right in some area. But I do want to charge back towards Williams. If we can beat Williams, I feel like we'd be like best of the midfield runners, because Williams is at the peak of the midfield, I would say. And we're already doing quite well for ourselves, it has to be said, at this early stage. First 9 races, and we've already, you know, bagged some top 10s. I think we got a top 5 at one point at Monaco. You know, we're not doing too bad in the grand scheme of things, and we're going to continue to not be complacent and to bring on upgrades where we can. So, yeah, we're just filing through the days now, getting to mid-June, approaching the Canadian Grand Prix. We had a couple of reliability failures on the development side. So, whatever it is that makes our parts ain't the best. We need to upgrade our literal 3D printer and go from there, really. So, we're going to rectify some of those issues that failed. The stators on the powertrain, I believe that's ERS upgrades. Back to the durability, where these two things failed. I think the failed upgrades will probably do quicker. But no, we're going to do a control electronics for the second upgrade, and that is that. ECU fuel efficiency upgrade. I'm going to put that on Colapinto's car, and we're going to drive as Colapinto. Colapinto has the least upgrades, and we drove as Brendan Lee last time, I believe, so just trying to keep it somewhat fair between the two drivers. Some motor training then. We have a training point to use, and we've not used anything on the engineering side, so let's get a move on with this. It increases our resource point income by 10%. I was shying away from doing that in the past because we already have so many resource points, but there's actually a lot of really good perks to have in the engineering side. So to get to those, we need to do the pointless upgrade first. Phase 2 is unlocked on the corporate side, so we're absolutely cooking there. We can delve into some more meaningful upgrades to the facility, and I'm waiting for the day where we can actually boost our drivers' performance. In previous My Teams, ever since F1 2020, we could improve the simulator, which would improve the driver's pace. I'm hoping that something like that is available soon. Having a look through Phase 2, it doesn't look like there's anything we can really upgrade that's going to help our drivers' overall pace. There's things that's going to help their mentality, which in a way will help their pace, but nothing that directly boosts their pace like we've seen in the past. So as soon as something like that becomes available, I'm going to be all over it. Anyway, it's time for the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. As I said, I'm going to be driving as Colapinto because he has less upgrades fitted to his car. Why am I going to Brendan Lee? I'm driving as Brendan Lee. Brilliant. Okay, I forgot that. I forgot that I was going to drive as Brendan. So there we go. We're driving as Brendan. Maybe next episode we drive as Colapinto. Oh, I'm a mess. Anyway, practice is done. We've got the resource points needed. Fresh components going on for qualifying. So let's send it for this race.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here in Canada at the wonderful Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Who's going to come out fastest of all in the next hour? Yes, it's time for qualifying.
It is time indeed. I got to tell you, the temptation to run a proper setup for this round of the championship was oh so tempting, because this was the day before Creator Series for Canada. But we're going to stick to our roots, and we are going to run with a default setup. Running through it now. The AI is running with increased top speed, I believe, and we're going to balanced, which is 36 wings. I think we're going to increase the front wing by a couple of clicks. As always, we're going to max out the tire pressures because the tires overheat far too quickly for us on this game. It doesn't affect the AI, so we have to change that just to be competitive. And everything else is pretty much stock standard. There's only a few minor changes that I make, like diff settings and brake bias, the kind of thing that, you know, everyone changes for personal preference for rotation and traction settings. Those things can really make a nice difference. Certainly with brake bias, you really want to wind that back to give the rotation that you want. So yeah, heading out on track for our first quali run. I think a really good time is in the 9s, or like a low 9. I'm not sure what the AI is going to be doing, but we're going to try and get in the 9s ourselves. Coming across the line, it's a 10-9. Puts us P10, so yeah, with a time like that, I would expect to be further down the order. And oh, actually we are. Everyone's put a time in now. 1.6 seconds off the pace. That's probably where we'd expect to be honest, but we're going to make a few adjustments to make the car a little bit more alive. In qualifying, you want to, you know, up the front wing angle. You want to get rotation out of the car, especially for one lap pace. When it comes to navigating the car through the race, you want to dial some of those settings back a little bit just to make the car a little bit more livable, especially at a track like this. I've found that Canada is very harsh on the rear tires when they start to go off, and you can see we're already struggling on traction when the tires are brand new, so that's not exactly a good omen for this race. But I think we're still a little bit green to this circuit. This is one of our first laps of the entire weekend, in all honesty. So really, we're just bringing ourselves up to speed at this stage, rounding the final chicane. That's a real bravery corner in F1 25 and games gone by. So there's definitely some time to find there. I didn't maximize the exit. The rear ends kind of disconnected a little bit at the second phase of that chicane. So definitely more time to find. But it was a nice improvement on the banker that we had. 1.3 seconds off pole position, and we are purple to the first sector. So whatever it is we're doing with the setup, the high downforce is definitely working for us. We're definitely going to be compromised in the race, and you bet I'm going to complain about it when we get overtaken by everyone in a straight line. But this is what we need to do. In order to be quick, we need to run a little bit more downforce than our rivals, because they, with their natural base package, they have more downforce and more efficient aero than we do. So in order to compete, we do need to shaft ourselves in terms of straight line speed to get anything out of these race weekends. And that's an area where we thrive. That is getting lap time. But our teammate struggles. Is, you know, they run a low down setup and they've just got no pace compared to us. So I'd rather take the compromise of being fast but easily overtakeable. I don't know whether you guys would agree with me on that one. But we're 5 tenths up on our previous best lap, which is already pretty good. So if we can get in the 9s, which we're threatening to do now, 7 tenths up as we exit that hairpin leading onto the final straight. This is, again, a corner where we can make up a lot of time. We didn't nail it last time. Let's do it this time. Turning nice and early. You can mount the curb quite a bit. I was a bit conservative. I left the turn in a little bit too late, and we actually lost time compared to our previous lap. It's a 10.2. 1 minute 10.2. So it was only a 5/10 improvement in the end. The delta was lying, which is a glitch I found on F125. It's more often than not been lying to us than actually telling the truth. But it's a top 10 in qualifying, which is an absolutely incredible result given the car package that we have. Our teammate is 21st, but not a grand deal off the pace either. So I'm hoping that there's something both of us can do in this race.
Here in Montreal, Lights Out is quickly approaching on this artificial island originally built for the World Fair in 1967. Now it's used for a World's Fair of a different kind, ever since Formula One first arrived here. We're back in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. Hi, Naomi. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. What a track this is, and what a challenge for the drivers this weekend. Long straights, heavy braking zones, and a very green surface to start with.
This happens to be one of the drivers' favorites. It is a low downforce circuit that is fast and flowing, but it is also demanding on the brakes. And be careful, because let's not forget the Wall of Champions that catches out so many.
Well, if we hit the Wall of Champions today, then we're 100% winning the championship. There's no question about it. Welcome to the grid of the Canadian Grand Prix. Just running through the setup. As promised, it is default setup with some minor changes. We're not going to change too much because we don't want to make the car too aggressive like we did in Imola, and that was a massive mistake. So we're going to take it somewhat conservative because I know how bad the tire wear is going to be around this track. Now it's time to think about the strategy. Most people are starting mediums. A few people are starting on hards, but I'm going to use the mediums first. I feel like they're the better race tire in general for the compromise between consistency and speed. But the hards, I think, will be able to overcome the harshness of the tire wear, especially on the rears around this circuit. So I'm going to save that tire for last, just in case. I don't want to use the hards nice and early because what if there's a safety car? What if there's a red flag? Very highly likely at a street circuit like this, where the margin for error is very, very small. So I want to leave my good tires for later on in the race, especially with sim damage. Anything is possible. Here we go. Our best qualifying of the season, apart from Monaco. Let's see if we can convert this into some points. It's lights out and away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix, and a pretty awesome start compared to the AI. Heading down into turn 1. We didn't want to send it too hard on the two Ferraris, but in the end, we've actually ended up making contact by me not committing too much into that braking zone. We got them anyway, and into the top 4. Next up is Lando Norris in the McLaren. We are well and truly racing with the big boys so far in this race, but I know that we are not going to stay here. This is not the norm. We had an awesome start. Everyone was starting on the hard compound tires, which we know have a horrific corner cut. The hards have a horrific warm-up phase, so these guys are going to be half a second slower than what they normally would be, at least for these first 3 or 4 laps. Once those tires start warming up, they're going to be flying, and it's going to be very hard to stay with them for the remainder of this stint. So I'm going to burn quite a bit of battery to stay with these guys for as long as I can. Running at their pace will enable me to kind of pull away from my actual rivals in this race. The Alpines, the Williams, the V-Carbs, the Haas's, all those guys. We're getting dragged along at race leader pace because of the good position we put ourselves at the start of this race. So the longer we can keep this going, the more it's going to help us in this race. I am going to do a 2-stop. I'm not sure what the AI is going to do. I would assume a 2-stop as well because of how easy it is to cover a pit stop here with a short transition time. We've got the 2 race leaders squabbling, Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen. Yuki Tsunoda not getting a good penalty in this race, and he is absolutely flourishing in this race. It's the kind of head scratcher that Red Bull and Christian Horner have not had for many, many years in the sport. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage this race going forwards. 5 laps deep into the race, and you can see the tire wear is so harsh. 23% on the left rear tire. It's something like 4 to 5% wear per lap. Maybe it's actually more than that. Maybe it's closer to 6%. going off memory. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a two-stop race, given the harshness of the tyre wear. I'm not saving tyres at this stage, and we have a retirement already in this Grand Prix. That could be a safety car. That is Isaac Hadjar retiring on the start-finish straight. We'll have to wait and see for the notification to come up, whether the safety car does get enabled. That car is still slowly coming to a halt in this race, as is our chances of staying with the race leaders. That was Hamilton having a look around the outside into turn 8, and that was very, very close. I didn't think he'd actually go for that. It's not the kind of corner you go for a send. You need to be fully alongside. Hamilton had the run, and yeah, at the last second, I kind of opened up the space for him to exist, and in the end, he kind of backed out. So that was awkward. Very, very awkward. An awkward encounter with our very high downforce, which left us exposed at the end of that mini straight. So we'll have to be aware of that. Hamilton going to go for some unorthodox moves in this race. Finally catching up to the stricken Hadjar, who has retired. No safety car deployed in this race. Some battling going on between Norris and Tsunoda, which allows Max Verstappen to build out a 3 or 4 second lead in this race, and already struggling with the traction. We're actually going to think about pitting in the next 4 or 5 laps. It's not going to be long before we get off these tyres because they're struggling. Never mind, we have a red flag. Red flag in this Canadian Grand Prix. A few of the back markers got caught behind each other in the first sector, and the track was completely blocked. So stewards have thrown a red flag. They didn't allow the AI to sort it out between themselves. They didn't have confidence that they would sort it out between themselves. I don't actually think there was a retirement. We still got 21 cars, but we're restarting the race anyway on medium compound tyres. Away we go for the restart of this race. Oh, that's a brake check. That's almost a brake check from Charles Leclerc there. Luckily, to avoid the front wing damage. That was not ideal. But we are away for this race once again. And all those race leaders who started the race on hard compound tyres now have a tough choice for the rest of this race. They've lost their race tyre. They put, 20-odd% on those hards. They need to make the decision whether they put those hards on again in the next stint, because they've only got 2 mediums, I would assume. Now, sometimes the AI do change their tyre allocation, but I wonder if they've done that today. Those who started mediums like me, we're in a pretty ideal situation in terms of strategy. So those race leaders have an arm tied behind their back for the rest of this race, and that's going to give us half a chance to maybe do something against these guys in the back half of this race, because they've either got to put on their second set of mediums and really stretch them to the end, or they put their hards back on. And when they put their hards back on, they're going to be used. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. Hamilton again looking for his unorthodox move around the outside of the turn 8 chicane, and we hang on just about this time. We saw the move coming, and here he comes again round the outside into the hairpin. I'm not sure where the detection line is. I think it's a lot earlier on in this straight, so Hamilton will have DRS, or it doesn't matter anyway because Leclerc is right in front of us. But we re-overtake Hamilton into the hairpin and hang on to P6 so far in this race. Here he comes again in the slipstream. This is where the race is starting to open up. Everyone's starting to find their natural rhythm. Oh my God. We're starting to find some confidence under brakes. We've always been strong under brakes on F1 25. That's about the only strength we have compared to the AI. But they are starting to flex the pace, and flexing his drifting skills is Charles Leclerc on the replay here. From the third person, he just gets the rear end kicked out under the curb, and then he just plants the throttle and keeps going. He doesn't lift, doesn't care. Full send on the hard compound tyres. That's a 10 out of 10 drift for me, I've got to say. That was absolutely incredible from Charles Leclerc. Very stylish, not good for lap time though, and you can tell because he's pretty much dropped out of the DRS of Oscar Piastri ahead. So that was a very costly drift, but if he's kind to the tyres from here on out, he should be able to have the pace, the consistency to overcome the pace of Piastri, because Piastri's mediums will wear out as well, and he'll drop back towards Leclerc, and that shouldn't be an issue. Hamilton getting passes on the straight, and this time it is for keeps. Unable to outbrake him from that far back. Hamilton takes P6 in this Grand Prix, and now this is the crossover period, I would say, between the medium and the hards. Remembering the two Ferraris have fresh hards because they started on mediums, literally pushing Hamilton through turn 1 and 2. I'm not sure what the deal is there. Ferrari seemingly running pretty low downforce, so they're struggling for pace in the first sector. We are arguably the quickest car on track in that first sector. We don't talk about sector 2 and 3 because, you know, pain. But, yeah, we're holding down our position pretty well. We've got Antonelli catching up to us now, only 1.3 seconds back. He's on the medium compound tyres as well, I believe. So his tyre wear seemingly better than us at this stage, and this is why. A little bit of a drift on the entrance to the last chicane. Didn't cost me too much, but those little micro mistakes start to creep in, and they really start to affect the tyres if we keep that up. And there's a Charles Leclerc-like drift, albeit not as good as his, through the same corner. Lap 20, engineer is calling me in for hard compound tyres to see out the rest of this race. It's a 15-lap stint, and I think that should be pretty doable from here. It was a bit of a pain, really, to eke out these last few laps, trying to stay with the two Ferraris, who are obviously much quicker than us, but the DRS is really working its magic for us in this stint. The DRS is worth, I want to say, 7 tenths. 7 tenths a lap, and I'm getting DRS all the way around the track. You know, in qualifying, I think we were probably 7 tenths or maybe a little bit less slower than the Ferraris. So the DRS and the slipstream more than making up for the lack of pace that we have compared to those guys. So it's really kept us in this race. If this was a different track with more dirty air, you know, we would have lost the leaders almost instantly in this race. So we're getting blessed by the carrying of slipstream and DRS in this race. But out we emerge on the racetrack again. P9, having served both of our stops. Stroll, I think, has to stop again. So he's on old tyres, old hard compound tyres in that Aston Martin. We'll actually try and do an overtake here in the slipstream of the Aston Martin. Mercedes power unit as well. So it's aero versus aero at this point. And in overtake, Stroll defends it to the inside. We get the job done. And that is us up into P8. Albeit we had to work really hard for that overtake. We were on the battery and the DRS the whole straight. And we only just got Stroll at the end of the straight. That is absolutely mad. That's how inefficient our aero is at this point. And again, the compromise we have to make, the sacrifice we have to make to actually have pace. Because if we run low wings, we're going to be struggling. We're going to have no traction. I tried low wing setups at Canada, and it doesn't work, believe me. At least with my driving style anyway. Antonelli overtakes us now on medium compound tyres. He's going to have some difficulty getting those tyres to the end. He's gone hard, medium on the strat. So I'm hoping if I can stay with Antonelli, then, you know, we're going to be half a chance of overtaking him towards the end of the race. The Ferraris, unfortunately, are gone. At least Leclerc is. Hamilton has pitted. Fresh medium tyres going on his car. And he's going to have quite the offset of tyres compared to us, depending on how quickly he can get through Pierre Gasly. Second warning of the race. One more, and that is a 3-second penalty heading our way. 7 laps to go. Hamilton is closing in on us now as he's overtaken Gasly and is only 2 seconds behind. We're still trying to work away at Antonelli, trying to find where his weaknesses are. You know, if there's anywhere we can overtake the Mercedes, it's got to be in the first sector where we are quick after the 2 DRS straights. But, you know, it's really tough. It is really tough. I'm trying to get as close as I can to Antonelli. Look at the outwash of dirty air going through this high-speed corner. You can see we're right on him on entry and mid-phase of the corner, but the push from the dirty air just is brutal. Sends it into a slide as we ran too wide over the curb. So, yeah, we're definitely going to have to make this move at the end of the 2 back straights, one of the 2, or heading into turn 1. That seems to be our best chance. We get dirty air through the turn 8 chicane, and we're absolutely horrendous through this hairpin. It's probably my worst corner of the whole game. You guys have always called me out for it, but I've watched other people. I still don't know how to take that corner. I don't know what it is I'm doing wrong. Maybe I need to not go so deep into that corner and not be so greedy on entry. Who knows? Hamilton having a little look at us on those fresh medium compound tyres. I'm sandwiched in between 2 top running teams at this stage with 2 laps to go. Make that 3 laps to go. I don't know. I don't overly feel confident. Hamilton actually has damage as well on the front right end plate. Maybe that explains why we were able to run with the Ferraris for so long in this race. That's a good run out of the last chicane. Maybe we're going to be half a chance heading into turn 1 in the slipstream, in overtake, diving to the inside for turn 1, and that is finally job done in this race. Back up into P6 in this Grand Prix. Now what can we do to defend against Antonelli, against Hamilton? We're going to have to save a lot of battery through this middle sector before the DRS zones are activated. I wouldn't mind if Antonelli gets me here, because that would mean I get DRS on the next 2 straights. No, we're going to try and defend it from this point. So 6 tenths back from Antonelli. Is this enough of a margin? Starting 5 tenths ahead on the back straight. No, it's not. We're going to need something like 7 or 8 tenths. We're going to need 8 tenths on Antonelli heading onto the back straight on the last lap if we are to get him now, which it doesn't look like we are. I think we made a mistake here by we didn't really let Antonelli overtake us. He was just that much quicker in a straight line. And now we have to overtake Antonelli before the finish line, which is going to be very, very difficult. We're going to have to hope that Antonelli runs out of battery on this next back straight. If this was F124, I'd be pretty confident of that. But F125, the AI are a little bit smarter. They save their battery for the run to the line, which Max is doing right now. He wins the Grand Prix and further cements his position in the championship as being the race leader, championship leader. Lando Norris gets P2 in this one, actually finishes the race. Antonelli next. Let's see if we can get a really good exit here. The difference between our 2 tyres should be the biggest it's ever been. We should have much better tyres than Antonelli at this point, but he's just got the traction and the straight line speed, which is going to come in very handy for this straight. We're actually on the limit, on the brink of running out of fuel as we head through the final chicane. We're not close enough to Antonelli, and there's no braking zone. That is it for this race. Massive drift out of the final chicane. Antonelli's going to get away with P6, but for us, it's still going to be P7, which is an incredible result. And finally, an incredible drift that rivals the Charles Leclerc drift from earlier. That is the tyres finito in this race. P7, 6 points.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Not bad. We take those. More points for the championship. Kicking clear of Colapinto, which I'm sure he'll be very happy with that.
The checkered flag is out. We're going to be hearing that Dutch national anthem again because it's victory for Max Verstappen.
Wow, that's 3 wins in a row. They really are on a roll now and really building great momentum. They are clearly one to look out for.
It's what every driver imagines when they start out on their long road towards Formula One. And for our lucky 3 today, here's the podium waiting for them. And for those that have missed the Dutch national anthem, fear not. It's back again because Max Verstappen is back on the top step.
GG's to Max. There was no catching him after he broke DRS to his teammates and the McLarens. So, yeah, good result for Red Bull as well. Yuki Tsunoda getting P3. Unable to keep Lando Norris at bay. I think Verstappen kind of broke away, or rather, Tsunoda got trapped after a bad running with Max. They had a bit of a battle and then kind of lost momentum after that and then didn't have the pace to stay with Norris either. So a good race for Tsunoda, for sure, and one that he can hopefully build on and start to challenge Max a little bit more often. But for us, that was a fantastic race. I can't lie. P7, only 30 seconds off the win. I know it sounds like a lot, but in this car, I think it's quite the achievement. We beat a Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, who coincidentally in the same race had damage, which held him back for the majority of the Grand Prix. We beat Williams, we beat Alpine, we beat a lot of our nearest rivals in the constructors, so some points gained on those guys. So I really can't complain with the outcome of that race. I would have loved to have got Antonelli, but realistically, that Mercedes is just a little bit too good for us, and Antonelli as well just didn't really put a foot wrong for the majority of that race and deserved the P6. Colapinto, a minute off the pace, last of the finishers who did finish, so definitely some work to do on that side of things. I really do want to try and give my teammates more of a leg up if I can. I'm giving them upgrades where I can, but I want to do more to actually boost their stats, boost their confidence, and their raw pace. So that's going to be the aim for the future episodes, and I'm hoping you guys can shed some light on whether, if or when we can do some of those pace upgrades for one or both of our drivers. Speaking of the drivers, we are up to P12 in the drivers' standings. 22 points for Brendan Lee. I think next race we will drive as Colapinto to level things up and not let him get too depressed in the championship battle between his teammates. And constructors-wise, nothing has changed there, but we're just a little bit closer to Williams. So quite happy with that race. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Very, very challenging race, I think, with the sim damage and pushing the limits against the AI every single lap. That was one of my better drives of the season, it must be said. It's I know sometimes it can look easy, but that was one of those ones where I was really pushing hard for the majority of the race, trying to eke out everything to stay with those quicker cars, and it delivered some awesome results. So yeah, we'll take those. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you guys next time for the next My Team race.